Okay, Owen and I are back again. We have no random film topic we're going to talk about this time. That was a completely unplanned conversation about white chicks last week. That wasn't meant to happen. So what we're going to do today, we're just going to go right into it. It's a little bit shorter today because time constraints, but we're just going to go right into the Super Bowl. Owen, we were both wrong. What went wrong for the Patriots?
Everything went wrong. Everything. It was one of those games where you knew it was over after the first drive. I don't know about you if you felt like that, but I definitely did.
No, I felt pretty good after the first few drives, especially because Darnold almost threw a pick a few times.
Yeah, but I think the Patriots basically conceded the game by how they came out of the gates. Like, Vrabel clearly... It was almost as if he was telling them the only way that we can win this game is by getting an early interception or turning the ball over.
Well, they blitzed a lot in the first quarter.
Yeah. And
Darnold
I
with
just
his feet.
think he didn't trust Drake Maye. And, that came out in their game plan, that he didn't trust Drake Maye to outplay Darnold, which, he's an MVP candidate. I get he's trying to protect him because he's a young quarterback, but in a spot like that, you've kind of got to put more stock in Drake Maye and what he can do.
Yeah, I certainly agree. He should have trusted him more. Like, Drake's been great. Okay, he's not been good in the playoff run, but he was great for, say, 15 out of the 19 weeks. No, 15 out of the 20 weeks they played football.
Yeah.
So, I think you do have to put more trust into him than what you ended up getting and what you ended up getting through. Because it's not even like Darnold played a good game. Like,
I disagree with that. I think Darnold played really well. I think he played really well.
He escaped a few sacks and he made a few good throws, right?
I think that's the thing that makes me think he played so well was how good he was in the pocket when he was under pressure.
Okay.
Because they did get to him.
Yeah, they easily could have had about 3 or 4 sacks in the first half.
Yeah.
And
it was very different. How Drake Maye was in the pocket, he seemed erratic, he seemed uncomfortable the whole game. Whereas Darnold in the pocket, although he was under pressure, it's not like he had much time. He would still make big throws. I think he played I'd give him a B+ or an A- game.
that's very high. I mean, defensively, I think the Patriots were obviously fine. Seahawks obviously had a bit of a clinic, but I think the majority of what the issues ended up coming from was Vrabel wasn't like they had several 4th and mediums, 4th and shorts, and Vrabel just punted the ball away. And the Seahawks, right, they weren't moving the ball all the way down the field, but they would move the ball close enough to then pin you in your own end zone, which just ended up leading to.
Do you know what? I get what he was doing, but I think Mike McDonald outcoached him, and I think it was Vrabel shooting himself in the foot a bit. And I think the reason why is because his defense was playing so well that first half especially, but it becomes discouraging for them when the offense doesn't ever move the ball, and it obviously fatigue as well. And so you're putting the game on your defender's back saying you have to go win this for us. But your offense is not progressing the ball whatsoever. So your defense is getting tired, but they're also starting to lose belief. And so in the second half we saw, they still played well, but there were more cracks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what was the score going on at half? Was it 6-0 or was it 9-0 at that point?
9-0 at the half.
And, that easily could have been the other way, but I just felt that Vrabel was far too conservative, like you said. When a defense has to go on the field over and over and over again, they're eventually going to get tired. If we even take the Texans, if we want to go a bit further back to the last time the Seahawks were a serious team, they would be losing time of possessions by 10, 12, 13 minutes per game. And they would still come out on top, but eventually over the course of the season that wears you down. And those are guys with Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and Wagner and elite defensive line. Even the same with the Broncos the year after, when you have Von Miller and DeMarcus were retired. Either way, the Broncos had an elite defense. Like all these teams with elite defenses, Eagles this year, you eventually get tired, right? Mm. And the Patriots, their guys just got tired, and their defense isn't at the level of those guys, by the way, because the Patriots aren't a top 5 defense. Mm-hmm. They're solidly and firmly in the top 10, and you can make a case for top 5, but they're not bona fide, certified top 5 defenses. And when you put yourself in a position like that, where those guys, you're just relying on, like you said, I mean, Darnold basically throwing a pick. So,
if I had to give my top 3 keys to the game, then for why the Patriots lost and why the Seahawks won, my first one, the number one thing would be what we talked about Vrabel taking the offense off the field and keeping the defense on for too long. My second key would be Kenneth Walker running the ball, because not only the time of possession and clock that eats up and keeps the defense on the field for, but he was finding ways to progress the ball and get first downs. And then my third key would be Darnold, how good he was in the pocket at avoiding sacks, and the fact he played a clean game. Those would be the 3. I mean, that is ignoring massively the Seahawks defense, but let's put that to the side because we already know what the Seahawks defense were going to bring. And maybe I am ignoring too much how bad Maye played and how good that defense was. But I think if those 3 keys don't happen, then it might have been a different game.
I mean, obviously Walker was fantastic. He ran the ball super easily, which is part of the reason why I don't think Darnold played that well. Like, you have Walker who's giving you 5-6 yards a pop.
That's fair.
And you can't obliterate the other team. Like, I do hold it against you somewhat.
That's fair.
I mean, defensively, what they had on this... Defensively, the Patriots just... They couldn't stop the run, right? They couldn't stuff it. And that was a weakness that they sort of had throughout the year. Just a lot of the time, they were ahead in games, so teams couldn't run the ball. It's just like, you're not going to run the ball against a team where you're down by 10 points. It makes no sense. Well, it does, but in modern NFL teams' minds, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the time it eats. I mean, the Seahawks receivers didn't even have to do much the entire game. They made a few plays, but a lot of it was just how well I do think you're underselling how good the Seahawks defense were, because
I think they're excellent.
They're not a big blitzing team, and they were sending Devin Witherspoon, who is sort of
he played great.
I thought he should have got the MVP, to be honest with you. I thought that his 2 or 3...
He was the best player, apart from... Well, I thought Kenneth Walker was, but because he was... I think they were giving Seahawks defense credit as a unit, and Kenneth Walker was more like, that's an individual you can point to.
I suppose, but Witherspoon 2-3 sacks, however many things it was.
He did pop off the screen with a spoon more than any other player. I'm
pretty sure he also forced a fumble, which led to the scoop and score. I think he was the best player. Obviously, Seahawks defense as a whole, you could have given it to Hall, you could have given it to Emanwari, you could have given it to some of the edge rushers, because I think they obviously put pressure on Maye right from the jump. You could have given it to anyone. I think that Witherspoon could have. If you're going to give it to anyone on the offense, fine, give it to Kenneth Walker, because he's the one who set the tone for that team, and he's the guy who got them over the edge in the first place. See what happens when you run the ball in the Super Bowl, Seattle. That's another,
old wounds.
Yes. So, I thought that in terms of what went wrong for the Patriots, Maye was just bad. Maye was bad, Vrabel was bad. The defense, you can't really complain about. They ran the ball okay. They weren't wow, but they got enough yardage, I thought, early in the game.
Yeah.
But it's just Maye was missing throws he should have made, and he was clearly jittery, and he was clearly under big pressure. And the thing is, where I will give Darnold credit is there was a stat which came out, and it was the time to throw for Maye and Darnold was super similar. They had I think it was down to the 100th of a second, close to 100th of a second. Darnold escaped and Maye didn't. Now, is that because the Patriots were worse at compressing? And then the Seahawks were maybe, but a lot of the time it was Darnold escaped out, and May has a habit of running into sacks. He was missing throws, and he didn't see things, and like there was a lot of times where someone seemed wide open and he just missed him. So I don't know. It's a bit of a nightmare. It's not what you would have looked for in a Super Bowl. And Darnold, I guess he didn't make any mistakes, right? He almost threw a pick on the first play of the game, but outside of that, he didn't really make any huge mistakes, which would have really bottomed out the Seahawks, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, if he does throw that pick in the first play of the game, that could have changed the whole dynamic of it.
Well, that would have been a pick six.
That would have been a pick six. Patriots go 6-7 up. Drake Maye feels more comfortable. I mean, do the Seahawks still win? It's still early days, so you don't really know. But
I mean,
it's certainly a different game because I think it can be disheartening. It was like with the Chiefs last year. It can be disheartening when a team can't move the ball on offense. And that was mainly the Patriots' offensive line. It was abysmal. It was Will Campbell was getting knocked over like he was being knocked over by some sumo wrestler in a soft play area.
Their issue was their guys were bunched up, right? Like the guard and the tackle together were getting bullied.
It was that same side that was just getting, and they were both rookies, I believe, and they were just getting bullied.
Well, Campbell's the disappointing one because he's a top 5 pick, right? So.
But we've seen this now in consecutive Super Bowls, and even if we go back to when Tampa Bay beat the Chiefs, if they can beat you with just 4 man up front, then...
Well, I think the Bucks blitzed a lot. Like, they brought 5, 6, 7 men, because they just didn't... They were just like, right, your offensive line's rubbish, we're going to send 7, you can't even block us if we send 4, so we're just going to abuse Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, and the Seahawks did that as well, but, like... If you can just say, right, our four man up front are going to beat you even with extra protection, there's not much you can do about it.
I agree. It's a flaw in the way that teams build nowadays. Like everyone's saying, like, oh no, let's get these wide receivers, let's get these DBs, let's get these tight ends in, let's get all these sexy positions in.
Even the value of the quarterback, I think, is probably diminishing now that we've seen Hurts go and win last year, Darnold win this year.
Yeah, if you have a wizard offensive coordinator, there's only so good of a quarterback you need because the playbooks are so simple. Like, get those big fellas in the trenches. Go get elite offensive linemen. Go get elite defensive linemen. Defensive linemen isn't even like a big concern like a lot of the time, but this is part of the problem that's come with since Cam Newton won his MVP. Because before then, you sort of had like Michael Vick did it, but he never really won anything, so teams weren't really looking for the dual threat. And Rodgers had escapability, but his escapability was to throw. Like, his escapability was to scamper out and like, okay, I'll fling the ball over here. Whereas now teams are like, oh no, we don't need an offensive line because our guy can just run. What's the problem? We don't need one.
Yeah.
So they're not getting these big, chubby fellas who are strong as anything, who can block people, who can put people on the floor. And what you end up getting is teams like this who are clearly flawed, but they end up in the Super Bowl because the rest of their team is good enough. And then they just get abused in the Super Bowl.
So that's actually what I kind of wanted to come on to. Because I agree with you. I think that the value that certain positions hold, skill positions, quarterback, I think that's... Well, I don't know if it's going to be the case, because I think there's always going to be smaller teams in the draft who are trying to fish for big quarterbacks. You like Mahomes, your Allen, that sort of figure. Or Lamar, who make you competitive every year. But I would think that those positions are maybe on the market stop going down, and the positions that I'm thinking after the last couple of Super Bowls might be going up is, like you say, DB, but then also running back. I think that has to go up now.
Kenneth Walker's a backup. Saquon Barkley last year was awful, and the Eagles won by 18. I don't think that the running back's value will ever go up if you invest in the offensive line. Cornerback's a weird one because if you have a good scheme with an elite pass rush, then a 6 out of 10 cornerback can look like an 8.5 out of 10 cornerback.
Mm.
So, will a running... I don't know.
I
Because
think my reasoning is so last Super Bowl, huh?
Barkley's year this year.
Yeah, obviously Barkley last year didn't actually like do much in the Super Bowl. Well, I think he scored a touchdown,
Maybe he
but
did, but he didn't have a good
he
game.
didn't run the ball well.
He was quiet. Let me look.
However, I think that he still had a big impact on the game because the Chiefs' defensive plan was so centered on shutting him down that it opened other things up for Hurts. And then this year we've seen the value of having Kenneth Walker. He won the Super Bowl MVP, and we've seen the value of that. And I just think it's a position where if you take a running back in the top 10, you're pretty much guaranteed that they're going to turn into a Pro Bowl. There's going to be exceptions, obviously, but you have Jameer Gibbs, you have Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. If you take a running back high, they can run the ball. It's not like quarterback where they can get to the league and then suddenly they can't process things or they don't turn into the player who they were projected to be. I think running back is more of a solid position where you know what you're going to get. And I think if you do have... I think their impact is bigger than their value in the league. And I think maybe we might see that shift or change.
Running back's a difficult one because I don't disagree. Like I love running backs, right? Like my favorite players in the league to watch are backs. Like I much prefer watching running backs than I do wide receivers. Like Barkley, Derrick Henry, McCaffrey, all these guys, Bijan Robinson. Like, I enjoy watching running backs more than any other position, like outside of maybe edge rusher, just because they're brutal. They're difficult because an elite running back can really take you up, take your ceiling up, right? The Ravens when they added Derrick Henry last year, their offense was probably the most potent that it ever looked. The Eagles with Barkley, McCaffrey every year, year in, year out with the Niners. But at the same time, the Niners also disprove that because they won a bunch of games last year and McCaffrey was out for large stretches. So, it's a weird one. Like, if you have an elite offensive line, you have someone who can hit the hole, then it brings you up a level. Like, the absolute top-end backs, yes, they deserve the paychecks. But the rest of them, it's hard to justify it because if you have an elite offensive line, how much value are they really giving? And even for an elite running back, if they don't have a good offensive line, how much value are they really giving? So, I don't know. It's a difficult one. Cornerback will always be valued highly. I think my issue is just people need to stop paying receivers so much. Mm-hmm. I think that receivers are the most overvalued position. I don't agree that quarterbacks are going down in value just because of the nature of the game. They touch the ball every snap. I think that people will stop fishing for the $50 million quarterback, though, like you said.
Yeah.
I think that they will say, okay, if we can get if we can get a good player who we can pay 30, 40 million for, and maybe eventually one day we do have to pay him 50 million when the market's 70 million, fine, that's okay. But receivers as a whole, like, if you have a good scheme and you have elite blocking, eventually some of these ragtag groups will become free. I think the Patriots under Brady were a really good example. Like, you have the highest paid offensive line in the league. You always consistently have a top 5 offensive line, especially in that run where they had 8 straight championship games. And your receivers are who? Gronkowski, fine, best ever. Amendola, Edelman, Chris Hogan, Wes Welker. These are a bunch of guys that we see. These are a bunch of guys that probably work with your dad. Like, they probably look like the guys who work with your dad every day. Like, these are just bog standard, middle of the road looking guys who are smart and they work hard. But they're by no means anything special or exceptional. And Brady's Brady, but he won a Super Bowl with them. Even if we look at the Chiefs, they don't have a high-paid offensive line at the minute because they're paying other positions. But the receivers, they won with who? A bunch of no-names, really, let's be honest. And then, who else do we have? The Bills, let's take a non-Super Bowl winning team. They win 12, 13 games every single year. And they have who at receiver? But they run the ball well and the offensive line's good. So, I don't know. I think receivers need to stop being paid so much. And look, who are the highest paying receivers in the league? CeeDee Lamb and what's going to be George Pickens. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Both of those teams win 7 to 9 games a year and are never going to win anything. So, stop paying receivers is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I partially agree with that. I think I do agree with that mostly. I think the key is you need to be strong at the most important positions, but what we're saying is there are positions where you can't have a weakness in it, but you can afford to, like quarterback, you don't need that max contract Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen to win. You can have a second tier quarterback like Darnold or Hurts, as long as you've got the roster around them.
Will players take those lesser contracts in the way that Darnold has that? And will Darnold even stick to this contract? Because why would they?
That depends on the player.
No, but why would they? Realistically,
I mean, if they're as selfish as James Harden, they wouldn't.
Well, I mean, if we're honest, right? Only Brady's ever taken a significant discount.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be an interesting one. Who's going to turn down an extra $20 million a year just because?
So do you think Darnold will?
He may, just because I don't think he enjoys pressure. But it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't.
But I don't know if it would be about pressure. Do you not think it would be about them being able to run it back?
Yeah, but Darnold is...
Still be able to pay people.
Who exactly? Unless you're an all-time guy, I don't think it makes sense to take less. Because you're not chasing money at that point, you're chasing legacy. That's why Mahomes took the 10-year contract.
Yeah.
You're chasing... if you're in a lower division, if you're a lower level, you might as well just take the dollar. So it's a bit of a weird one. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we are limited on time. We're on Darnold, so I think it makes quite a natural transition. What does this do for him? In terms of his stature in the league, going forward, how is he perceived, and what impact does it have on him, basically?
Well, it gets the monkey off the back, obviously. No one can hold that over him now and say you can't perform in the big moments. He's proved that he can. And I have him playing an A+ game against the Rams and a B+ A- game in the Super Bowl. And that's against Stafford and Drake Maye, who are both MVP candidates. I don't care how bad the offensive line was for the Patriots or how bad the special teams were for the Rams. The fact is, if he turns the ball over in those games, if he makes mistakes like people expected him to...
Especially against the Rams, right? Maybe not against the Patriots.
Especially against the Rams.
Just because of how bad Drake ended up playing, but especially against the Rams.
So I don't think it's fair to give someone like May benefit of the doubt when he's an MVP candidate and say, well, he does turn the ball over a lot. But then if Sam Darnold plays clean for the whole playoffs, which is impressive to not turn the ball over once.
Because he led the league in turnovers across the year.
Exactly. So historically, he's a turnover-prone player. And to be able to get to the playoffs and to completely turn that around, it shows a maturity, and it also shows that he can play in big moments. So, in terms of where I'd put him in the greater, larger quarterback conversation, so he's had a great regular season with the Vikings last year, but the criticism was we don't know if he can get it done in the playoffs. He's had a great playoff season this year, and he even had a good regular season this year.
Yeah, he was solid. He opened solid.
He hasn't had a top-tier regular season yet to the point where we can go, oh, he was in the running for MVP that season.
And last year he had a better year than this year.
Yeah, but he hasn't quite had that year like a Stafford or a May this year. So I think he still has to have a year like that before we can start pushing him into, oh, could this guy be top 5? But I think we can say he can be top 10, and we can put him up there with... Definitely put him with the young quarterbacks who have a lot of potential, like Caleb Williams and all them, who we think are next up, but haven't proved anything yet. And then I also think that we can put him with previous champions who aren't statistically great in the regular season, like Jalen Hurts, for example.
Okay. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said there. I mean, he's won, I think, 31 games over the last 2 years. What, 14 last year, 7. Yeah, he's won 31 games over the last 2 years. It's an average of 15 and a half wins. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, that will get you that. You will start for a lot of teams if you play that way for an extended period of time, right? So, what he's done there is a very, very good positive step. I still have concerns about his turnovers. Like, I don't know how much of it was just he was riding a hot streak into the playoffs, or maybe just that week off and the scheming, so they made him do less demanding things. How much of it was he got a bit lucky? I don't know. I think that he deserves the benefit of the doubt because, when you win, who cares, right? Like, if you win and you do play well winning and you're not a liability. Like, he didn't Trent Dilfer his way to a Super Bowl, did he? Like, he didn't have 3 touchdowns scored by his defense. He wasn't always put in a wonderful position. He did heavily contribute to 22 points offensively. Obviously, the other 7 were scored by the defensive unit, but I think he's in a spot now where, like you said, he's sort of stamped. Like, he doesn't really have to worry about anything. The only way that this could really go the other way is if he were to show mass jitters at the start of next year's playoffs. But even then, to a degree, it's like you've already won. So I think you're sort of stamped. Would you say he is top 10? I'm not going to make you do a ranking on the spot. I don't have one either.
Yeah.
I think that's probably.
I have him top 10. I mean, I can have a look now and see who I think my top 10 is right now.
I mean, I think the top 5 has to be the 5 the 4 that was in the group before, and then I think Burrow's the closest to dropping out, but I think the top 4 is Stafford, Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, and then you have Burrow in there, I suppose.
In that order?
No, Stafford's not better than Mahomes. I think Mahomes and Allen are still the 2 best. And then, I mean, if we go 6 through 10, there's a whole host of guys, but I think it probably is fair to put Darnold in there. I would love to have Baker in there, but Baker's been awful for the last 2 months of the season, basically, even with a bum shoulder. Like, I can't keep you in there.
Yeah.
So he's in a bit of a weird spot. I think Drake Maye is top 10. Like, he had a bad playoffs, but his regular season was absolutely elite, so you have to be in it. Like, Peyton Manning wasn't dropped out of the top 3 because of him stinking up the playoffs. So, not saying that Drake Maye's Peyton Manning, but.
So, I would largely agree with that. I think we've got the same top 5. Mahomes, Stafford, Allen, Lamar, and Burrow. And then probably May has to come in like.
I think May is 6th. Like, I'm not going to knock him that much because he was very good, but it's just.
And then I have Darnold top 10.
Darnold.
So is there anyone you'd?
He's in that like 7 to 12 range.
Is there anyone you'd have it over Darnold? Is Herbert better than Darnold?
I'd love to say yes, but the guy just stinks in the playoffs. Like, he's not dropping top tier regular seasons and then stinking up the playoffs. He is dropping good regular seasons and then he just turns into an absolute trollop in the playoffs. And then I mean, I like Dak a lot. Baker I would have there, but he stunk so bad in the last 2 months of the season that I can't justifiably have him there. I don't like Caleb Williams. Hurts is a weird one because I love his temperament. But at the same time, you've never thrown over 25 touchdowns. A lot of your teammates think you stink. And it's a bit of a weird. Well, I like Jalen. It's just he's a solid player. And then who else is there? I was going to mention someone else.
Trevor.
Jordan. Huh?
Trevor.
Oh, yeah, he's top 10. He has to be. He dropped a wonderful regular season. His last 2 months of the season, he had an argument as the best quarterback in the league. Trevor's there. Jordan Love can be in there. I think Brock Purdy's got to be there. I think that 7 to 14 range, you can have a bunch of guys in there and order it how you want. But, Darnold deserves to be towards the higher end of that hierarchy because of the way that he closed the season. He did win and those types of things.
Okay, I think I've got my top 10. So we've got up to 6 presently constituted.
Yes.
And then from there, so Drake 6th, 7th. I think I'd have.
Think about the order. We'll do it next week because I do want to touch on Drake Maye.
Okay, I think I'm not going to do order, but I want to go Hurts, Darnold, and then Dak or Love.
Okay. I disagree with a couple of those, but we'll touch on those next week. Drake Maye. So, what does this do for him? Do you think he gets back to a Super Bowl? Do you think he can win a Super Bowl? What do you think this does for his mentally? Do you think it'll make him better as a player? Do you think it'll crush him? What do you think?
Well, they're going from the easiest schedule ever to not next year.
Pretty hard one.
Pretty tough schedule next year.
They play the NFC North and the AFC West, which is brutal.
Brutal.
And a lot of those are road games, by the way.
Yeah. And you've got Super Bowl hangover. He's a young quarterback. And I don't think they'll get to the Super Bowl next year. And I know everyone was saying he's young and they're going to have plenty of opportunities. That might be true, but you just don't know with these things. Look at Marino, look at Burrow.
Rodgers only won.
Part of me is kind of like, you had such an easy path. And I know they played top defenses, but the offense is stunk on every single team they played. Let's just be real. They stunk.
CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert played like they had mental impairments, and Jared Stidham just bad.
They all played like they had mental impairments, and it was not the Patriots being so good that they won those games. It was more just the other team's offense not being able to function. And the Patriots scraped wins because they had an offense that just did function okay.
Mostly.
But I kind of think that was your time, that was your game where you had the chance to go and win that. I don't know if that's going to come around as soon as people think it might.
I think the Patriots are a significantly better organization than the Bengals. So I don't think Drake will miss the playoffs a lot. I don't think he's going to win the division every year. And I think there will be some years that he misses the playoffs. I mean, you're in a division with Josh Allen. And Josh Allen gives you a floor of 11 to 12 wins every single year. If Josh Allen's healthy, you'll get an 11 wins. A bare minimum. In the AFC, you still have Lamar. We'll see what happens with the Steelers and Rodgers, who's still going to be there next year probably. Burrow. You have the Chiefs coming back with Mahomes, and they're going to have a restocked team. The Chargers have an elite defense almost every single year, and they're having Mike McDaniels come in to fix Justin Herbert, see if he can fix that. You have the Broncos, who are tough. NFC, what am I missing? The South. The Texans' defense isn't going anywhere. CJ Stroud, if he can play like a mentally human quarterback, then they're going to be a good team. The Colts, they're dangerous. They've got a good defense. They've got a good run game. The Jags aren't going anywhere either. I said NFC, I meant AFC South. Like they're in a precarious spot. There are some years where they will miss the playoffs, and there are some years, including next year, where they won't even look remotely close to being a Super Bowl contender. And I like Drake. I like him a lot. And the Patriots won't go down the path of the Bengals, right? I don't think they're going to pay receivers a large amount of money. I don't think they're going to stock up on the wrong positions. It's so tough. And like we said, right? Mahomes is the exception, where he almost gets there in his first year and then he loses. Dan Marino, like you said, never got back. Aaron Rodgers, 1-1, never got back. Never even really got that close outside of the second Tampa Bay Super Bowl, outside of the Brady game, because all the other Super Bowls, all the other championship games, they were like, oh no, he got really close against the Seahawks that year as well, in fairness. But regardless, right, he's had a bunch of stinkers in those types of games. So, Rodgers never got back. Burrow's not got back. Peyton Manning only got to 4 Super Bowls, and it took him 8 years to get to his first one, and he stunk in the playoffs. So, especially for the first half of his career. So, there's no guarantee you get back. Cam Newton got there in year 4. He never made it back. So, I think he's in a weird spot. And I also don't think it's good to lose a Super Bowl before you win one. Like, there has been no team who's lost their first Super Bowl and gone off to rattle over a bunch of others. In any major sport, I don't think it's happened. Like, basketball, it never happened. I don't think. Especially not while we followed the league from 75 onwards. I just think football, it never happened. At least like past 80s, 90s, I think Liverpool may have lost the Champions League final before they won their first. But it's just not something that happens. So I think the Patriots could be in a spot of trouble, and I think there's a very good chance they don't make another Super Bowl for the rest of Drake's career. So, yeah. Do we want to wrap it there? Because I do want to give you a minute, because obviously we're short on time today. What's going to happen from next week is we're going to start talking about basketball again, and we're going to start talking about more football. We were going to talk about Arsenal today because they dropped more points, and I was very excited. But unfortunately, time
Only 4 points in it now.
is of the essence, and I really don't.
Come on, Wolves.
Yeah, come on, Wolves. So we'll have to see what happens. And then
They're not losing to Wolves.
they could. NBA All-Star Weekend is this NBA All-Star Weekend, so it sort of makes a natural pivot point. And then next week, Owen is going to go on a lovely waffle. He's going to talk for the longest he's ever talked on this show, and he's going to talk about all the awards, his title picks, all those types of things, because he follows the NBA a lot closer than I do before All-Star break. I'll begin to tap in significantly more now, so I'll be able to give opinions with a more informed sense. So, Owen will be back with me next week, as will I, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.